Hello, everyone. Welcome into another edition of the PokerNews Podcast. I am Jeff Platt. He is Chad Holloway. Chad, looks like you're at home base. So what's been going on? How's 2020 treated you so far?
Yeah, I've been enjoying the holiday break back home in Wisconsin, but soon I will be back on the road. In fact, next week heading out to Thunder Valley in California. Ooh. It's my first time. I'm very excited. I've been all over the world, all over the United States for poker, so there's very few places that I haven't been to that I actually want to go to, and Thunder Valley is certainly high on the list. So definitely looking forward to checking that one out.
I feel like Thunder Valley gets some pretty strong reviews, right? They're out there. I haven't heard one negative thing about Thunder Valley.
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons I want to check it out is because I've heard such great things. It appears, from what I've heard, that they know how to treat their, players right. I know they treat the media right because I have sent staff members, PokerNews Live reporters there before, and then they'll send a car to pick up our media reporter at the airport.
Oh,
like
baby.
that. Yeah, that sort of treatment is pretty amazing and very rare, especially for the media folks. So high marks in my book already, and I haven't even been there. So definitely going to check it out and experience it firsthand.
Yeah, high marks for me as well. I'm at my home base also in Las Vegas. We're doing some commentary for Millions UK, which we'll get to later. And Chad, I don't mean to brag, but I was in LA last week firing WPT500 at Gardens, which, by the way, I went to Gardens like way back in the day. I went to school out in LA, and it was kind of a dump. They've really turned that place around. Gardens looks impeccable. It's super nice. It's renovated. They put a lot of money into it. Props to Kevin and the whole team there because their WPT room is really nice. And Chad, I just so happened to min cash the WPT 500. How about that?
Yeah, congrats. We had talked about it on the last podcast, maybe that you would go there and win it and kick off your 2020 in big style. You're kicking it off in little style. You got, a min cash.
Well, I want to build throughout 2020, right? I don't want to just start with the WPT title. Yeah, so started with the min cash in for 2 bullets, so not even a profitable tournament for me, but it's good to get on the board at a WPT 500. All right, got some big stories to get to that kicked off 2020 that we will go back and recap. But first, of course, Chad, we have to thank the good people at Run It Once, led by Phil Galfond. The site is making waves. The site is doing well with their Legends point system. They're splashing the pot. They're just setting things up really, really well for the player. We have an exclusive PokerNews Podcast deposit bonus, once.run/PNPod. Again, that's once.run/PNPod. Just jump on. See what you think. Let us know. Let Phil Galfond know. He's always looking for feedback, always looking for ways to improve the site. I've been really impressed with what he's done with that site since it started over the last year or so. And we also have the Galfond Challenge in full force. More and more opponents are propping up, Chance Corneth being one of the more recent ones. And Chad, this is a lot of pot limit Omaha that Phil Galfond is going to embark on in 2020.
It's funny you mention it. I just spoke with Phil Galfond about the challenge. I'm going to be writing a PokerNews article, kind of an update article about it, but I've already spoken to him. And one of the things we talked about was the excitement that's built around the challenge. And I don't know if you've seen, but there was a tweet by Mike McDonald, also known as Timex, who he said he had a prediction that the Galfond challenges would have more volume and side bets than anything else in poker history.
Wow, that's saying a lot.
It is saying a lot. It's a big claim. So I asked Phil about it. I said, did you see this tweet? And, have you heard anything? Is there a lot of action, built around this? And he said, and I quote, "I think there's a good chance he's right," which is really exciting. He just hopes that all the hype translates into coverage and traffic for Run It Once Poker, which we also hope for too. And then I asked him, did you place any side bets? You've already got enough money riding on this, but have you placed any other? And he did say that, he, quote, "I've placed one bet on myself, but nothing substantial compared to the already large challenge side bets." But seems like he's confident if he's betting on himself.
Yeah, he's ready to go in. And really, Chad, I'm just here for the fair Galfond tweets about the Galfond challenge. The most recent one being Luke Schwartz saying, Luke Schwartz, he's going to talk and talk and talk. Solve for Wyatt, Phil Galfond trying to promote these pigeon challenges. Nobody cares, basically. And so Phil says, "Hi, Luke. Happy New Year. Thanks for your interest in the Galfond challenge." He says, "What a great idea," because Schwartz had challenged him to any limit or big bet mix game of your choice. Luke says me versus you, and I'll give you odds. So Phil says we can play some 1K, 2K, 8 game. No pigeon stakes, please. But I'd feel bad accepting odds from you. So I'll offer 1.1 to 1 on a side bet of 250K for a 15K hand match. And says flap, flap. And then Farrah responds and says, who's Luke Schwartz? Farrah Galfond, Phil Galfond, poker power couple. Again, you can check out Run It Once.run/bnpod for an exclusive PokerNews Podcast deposit bonus. Unfortunately, for the two of us and for a lot of our listeners, not in the U.S., at least not yet. Maybe the door will open in the future. We move from Run It Once to Run It Up. Run It Up founder Jason Somerville, he is out at PokerStars. And Chad, I feel like this really wasn't that big of a surprise considering the big changes that we've seen PokerStars make over this last year or so.
Yeah, PokerStars have certainly laid the groundwork to, partying with pros and other partnerships that they had, like with Run It Up. But it's not the end of the line by any means for Jason and his crew. They are going to pivot into, something else. Jason said in the video announcement that the sports betting is an emerging area that they'd like to do more in. That doesn't mean we won't see him in poker. Run It Up Reno 10 is coming up in April. It's always a great experience and a great time. So it's just the end of one chapter for Jason and Run It Up, but certainly not the last one.
I'm a little bit surprised considering his enhanced interest in sports bet that Stars wouldn't hold on to him, considering their promotion of Fox Bet. And I thought that could have been a partnership that works out. We saw Jason do a Twitch stream for Monday Night Football. There's a lot of sports betting involved, but, he's going to go off on his own. Again, another amicable split. They think they appreciated his time. He appreciated his time. I think he was a fantastic ambassador for PokerStars. I mean, one of the best online ambassadors in the history of the game. I mean, this is the godfather of Twitch streaming, and I think he's made, can I say, one of the biggest impacts in the game over the last decade?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that's fair. It's been, for me, I've been around for a while, and I remember Jason before his Twitch streaming days, before his bracelet, when he was just a grinder and kind of a disciple of Negreanu. So to see him kind of come up through the ranks and establish himself in the poker world and being the godfather of really Twitch poker is, an incredible testament to his legacy, and I'm sure we haven't seen the last. He's proven himself to be quite the adept businessman as well. So I think he's going to be around in poker one way or the other for probably throughout his entire career.
And speaking of legacy, I mean, former co-host of the PokerNews Podcast, that's like top of the list as far as accomplishments are concerned for him, I'm sure. So, Chad, we are underway in Australia. The Aussie Millions have begun. Have you been to the Aussie Millions before? I
have. I think I've been there, I want to say 6 times.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you've been a couple times. Okay, tell us about it and why it seems to receive rave reviews every year.
I mean, people ask me often what my favorite stop is that I've been to, and usually I say the Crown in Melbourne during the Aussie Millions. I've been there for the World Series of Poker Asia Pacific when it was held there as well. But it's just it's a fun stop. It's literally across the world from myself and, most players in the United States. And they just do a great job of running a poker series. It's, great events, great structures, great value. The venue itself is unbelievable. In fact, my first trip down there, I want to say, was back in 2012. And I went early to cover a lot of the preliminary events, which is what's happening right now. And I ended up spending several weeks down there, and I shit you not, I spent 12 days without going outside. I was 12 days, inside the Crown Melbourne, because it's a complex. It's not just a casino, it's many different towers of hotels that are connected. There's a movie theater in there, food court, little shops, things like that. So I was either working, sleeping, or if I did have free time, I just didn't really leave the Crown it was 12 days because it's the longest I've ever went without being outside. But I don't know. It's just a great experience, a lot of fun. The cash games are fantastic, and Melbourne is just a fantastic city. It's a lot of fun. I'd go back in a heartbeat, and in fact, I have a little bit of FOMO, not being there right now. Just living vicariously through colleagues and poker players. It's, I certainly wish I was there.
We have Joe Snell, who took down the 2020 Aussie Millions opening event. Quite the turnout there. 1,665 players. He takes home more than 340,000 Australian dollars in his very first Aussie Millions event. So that is a pretty cool story. Party Poker Team Pro Dmitry Urbanovic wins the 2,500 horse event. Slightly smaller field, slightly less first place prize, but nonetheless, he gets one of those cool Aussie Millions ring. And of course, our thoughts are with really everybody in that wonderful, beautiful area. Australia has been hit by some, I don't know what word we can use, devastating or catastrophic. And these fires have really had an impact over the last couple weeks or so. Major props to Crown Resorts, who has donated 5 million Australian dollars to the efforts to fight these fires. Some of the money to the fire services, some of the money to the Red Cross, some of the money to wildlife rescue. I think it's really impressive that they make this statement. Again, Crown Resorts and the Packer Family Foundation's donating $5 million to support the bushfire relief. And Chad, we also have Lynn Gilmartin, a proud Aussie out of the World Poker Tour. She started her own effort, Poker Players for Australian Wildlife, just trying to help. And she's raised tens of thousands of dollars, and I'm really impressed, and I admire what Lynn has been doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Lynn for a long time. From before her WPT days, she worked for PokerNews. And
that's right.
You know, I kind of came up at the same time that she was there, and there was some overlap. And Lynn is one of the, the most kind-hearted, generous people I've ever met in my entire life. I'm not surprised to see her doing this. I think it's in her nature. Very happy that she is, very proud that she's doing it. And it's a great cause. You know, the wildlife in Australia is being hit hard. In fact, I was reading an article today that there's going to be estimated 1 billion, that's with a B, 1 billion animals that will be lost to this wildfire. And if you do, read some online and see some of the photos, it's heartbreaking. And, they're the animals right now that are really being affected. There have been certainly people who have been displaced,
sure,
homes that have been lost, but sometimes the wildlife gets lost in the bigger picture. So it's cool to see that Lynn and others are doing what they can to help in that regard.
Yeah, it's unfathomable, that number that you just mentioned. So if you go to Lynn's Twitter page, she has a link to this Facebook fundraiser that's at Lynn Gilmartin, LYNNGILMARTIN. You can go to her Instagram page or her Facebook page. You'll find the links wherever on any of her social media accounts. We mentioned another Aussie. That would be one Kahle Burns. Kahle Burns takes down the Party Poker Live Millions UK super high roller. He wins $350,000. Chad, Kahle Burns is absolutely on fire. This is his fourth major title in the last 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a surprise for those of us who have been in the industry and been around him for a while. I remember last summer he went deep in the MSPT Venetian and battled three-handed with Kristen Bicknell and Alex Foxen.
Oh, I'd never heard about that.
Yeah. Little controversy surrounded that one. But, watching him firsthand as a reporter of that event, I was really impressed with his play and just knew that, okay, it's only a matter of time before this guy really starts hitting the circuit hard. And apparently, 2020 is shaping up to be that year because he's, like you said, he's absolutely been killing it.
That moves him past the $8 million mark in career lifetime earnings. All right, Chad. So Kahle Burns is at, again, like I just said, $8 million. That puts him second on the Australia all-time money list. Of course, it's tough when a main event winner from the World Series of Poker is from Australia. Joe Hasham with $12.6 million in, I'm going to give you 3 years, Chad. So at the start of 2023, who sits atop Australia's all-time money list?
I mean, I do love me some Joe Hasham, and I want him to be there for a while.
Sugar.
Yeah, he's going to have to pass the sugar soon, I think. I think we'll see Burns by the end of the year, maybe get there. He's going to be playing a lot of high rollers.
Yeah.
He's in prime form, so I wouldn't be shocked if that happens.
All right, Chad, let's get to some more results. And I mentioned WPT500. That, again, I did – cash in. It was a min cash for $900, and I was in for 2 bullets. But details, Chad. A big detail for this: the winner of WPT 500, Griffin Paul, for $174,850. This is Paul's second WPT trophy. He also won WPT Seminole Hard Rock Poker Showdown in 2015. Griffin Paul takes it down. I haven't heard Griffin Paul's name in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the last time he won, a WPT was back in 2015. But it's a name that's been around the poker world for quite a while. He's obviously staying on the grind, and this accomplishment shouldn't be swept under the rug. Really, he's only the second player to ever win a WPT 500 title and a WPT main event title. Wow. The other being Craig Varnell, who is a force in the poker world as well, a bracelet winner among the other accomplishments. But very impressive by Griffin Paul, and $175,000 up top for a $500 buy-in. That's a nice payday.
It's unbelievable. 2,310 entries again, and Paul comes out on top. We have another World Series of Poker Circuit ring for Maurice Hawkins. Chad, you wrote this article on PokerNews.com. Number 14 for Maurice Hawkins.
Yeah, it's a big one for a number of reasons. It occurred at Choctaw Durant in Oklahoma. It's his first ring at that stop. It's happening here within the first week of the new year. So it's a great way for him to get things started, a great momentum builder possibly to extend the lead even further throughout 2020. And maybe more importantly to him, it separates him further from Valentine Vorniku and Josh Reichard, who were only one ring behind him with 12 apiece. But now that Maurice has won number 14, he develops a 2-ring lead. So, there's got to be a little comfort that comes with that, I think. And, it wasn't his biggest payday. He got almost $17,000. But, like I said, I think just winning the ring, getting that big bit of a lead, and starting off 2020 in style is the important takeaways for Maurice Hawkins here.
Yeah, 14 rings, man, that is quite impressive for Hawkins. All right, his name popped up on the headlines. I figured we hit this story real quick. Mike Postle, guess what? Accused of avoiding court summons. Mo Nuara wrote this piece on PokerNews.com. There's an update out there from Vegas Slots Online in their news department. It seems like he's hiding. A process server tried to serve Postle with legal paperwork, giving him notice of that civil lawsuit that we've discussed. Then Mac Vanderstick, the actual attorney for the plaintiff, says, I want to get in the mix. I'm just going to show up at this guy's place and just keep ringing the doorbell. No response. And then he saw Postle inside the place, keeps ringing the doorbell. No response. So they've been unable to serve the paperwork. Is this any surprise whatsoever to you?
Not really. And it's funny, back, I don't know, a dozen years ago or so, I was involved in a civil matter where I had to serve somebody, not personally, but I had to go through the process of trying to get them served by, a process server, by the sheriff's department, and the individual, did what Postle's doing and tried to dodge. There's a process. They have to accept it in person or what have you, but they can only dodge it so long, because eventually what's going to happen is a judge is going to rule that attempts were made, and that that will suffice for serving. In my case, I had to post like a notice in the paper in which the defendant lived, like a public notice, and maybe that'll be the case here. But the dodging and the weaving and the hiding from Postle isn't going to work. It's not going to accomplish anything other than dragging this whole situation out even further. But now that the Verstandig and his clients are going to the judge trying to get this, it's probably going to happen. And then Postle will either be forced to show up in court, or if he doesn't, then, a default judgment could be rendered against him.
All right, well, we're about 2 months away or so from the Global Poker Awards, March 6th at the PokerGo studio. It'll be streamed on PokerGo. A couple announcements from the Global Poker Awards from Eric and the GPI crew. They've changed their voting process. They've overhauled that. There's no longer going to be a jury. And then just today, at the time of taping this podcast, they've also released their list of awards, 25 trophies. There will be 8 new awards. The Final Table Performance Award, the Poker Icon Award will replace the Lifetime Achievement Award. We'll have the GPI Breakout Player of the Year. We'll have Player's Choice for Toughest Opponents, which I really like, because they're going to survey the top 100 ranked players in the GPI to determine who was or who they believe would have been the toughest opponent to face in 2019. We'll have the People's Choice for Hand of the Year, Twitter Personality of the Year, because poker Twitter is a thing. Media content this year, Chad, will be split up into different categories. video content, written content, and photo. We'll have no more jury prize since there's no more jury. So we'll have a GPI award of merit. There's a full list. There are the ones they had last year: streamer, vlogger, industry person, tournament director, event of the year, mid-major, journalist, broadcaster, podcast, some People's Choice Awards, again, poker personality, hand of the year. So I like what the GPI has been doing to reformat this Global Poker Award show. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I like the new voting process. They've really put a lot of thought and effort into it to correct, some of the errors that were made last year. And while 25 awards might seem to be a lot on the face of things, it really is necessary here, because if you look at media content, last year they were all combined. It didn't matter if you wrote an article, did a video, had a great photo. It was all one category. And they're really different sorts of content, and that applies to other categories as well. So for instance, last year you had industry person of the year, but tournament directors were grouped into that, and now there's a separation there. They've drawn a bigger line between streamers and vloggers, which fans understood, but maybe the awards didn't understand last year. So I think it really was necessary for them to split up a lot of these categories, and I think it's going to be great. I've never been to the Global Poker Awards. I've always been working or just never had occasion to go. Hopefully that'll change in 2020, because it looks like it's shaping up to be quite the spectacle.
I think it'll be a great show. And receiving the GPI Poker Player of the Year for the second straight year, Alex Foxen. Receiving the GPI Female Player of the Year for the third straight year, Chrissy B, Kristen Bicknell, back to back to back. Impressive performances once again for poker's power couple, for one of the power couples, I should say. Chad, you're off to Thunder Valley, correct?
That's right.
All right. Well, we will talk to you next week. We will talk to all of you guys next week. Stay tuned to Poker Go. Of course, I got to get a plug in, right, for these Millions UK broadcasts. We pick up coverage of the main event starting Friday, January 10th. So for Chad Holloway, for the good people at Run It Once, shout out to Phil Galfond. And for our friend, Sarah Herring, as she would say, deuces.